They say you should never get too attached to your job. I thought I understood that, until the day I was escorted out of the building I'd helped build, by a man who didn't even know what the Q protocol did. My name is David Linwood. I'm 42 years old, and I spent 15 years as the lead systems engineer at RFX Technologies, a company I once believed in more than I believed in myself. I live in Austin, Texas, and up until 3 months ago, I thought I'd retire at RFX. I thought I was safe. But what I didn't realize was that safety is just an illusion, and sometimes the system you build to protect others ends up becoming the weapon you need to save yourself. It started with a handshake. Our old CEO, Richard, had just retired. A kind man, older, humble, always wore those dumb brown loafers that squeaked down the hallway. He understood the backbone of the company. He respected the people who built it. When he left, I knew things would change, but I never expected the storm that followed. Enter Jeffrey Langston, the new CEO. Early 40s. MBA from somewhere expensive. Walked like he owned the place, and maybe legally he did. But what he didn't own was the system. The system was mine. Every line of code in our automation platform, from our client tracking to our internal payroll to our inventory logic, I had built. It took me nearly 3 years, over 200,000 lines of original code, and countless sleepless nights. I didn't build it for recognition. I built it because I believed in RFX, in what we were doing, and in a team that trusted me. Jeffrey didn't care about that. To him, I was just overhead. 1 month into his reign, he started calling meetings I wasn't invited to. Then came the optimization memos, budget cuts, layoffs, mergers. He praised our automation like it was his own idea, bragged to investors that we'd eliminated 80% of manual tasks in logistics and HR. But he never once asked how it worked, or who kept it running. And then, just like that, I got the email. Your services are no longer required. We appreciate your contributions. No conversation. No warning. Just a system lockout, a final paycheck, and a security escort to the parking lot. But here's the part Jeffrey didn't know. When you build a system from the ground up, when every backup protocol, every server key, every safety override is etched into your mind, you don't just walk away. You can't. So while he was busy gutting the company I helped build, he had no idea I still controlled the system. I joined RFX Technologies when it was nothing more than an overworked sales department and a warehouse running on Excel sheets. Back then, we were 10 people, no IT department, no roadmap, just raw chaos and ambition. I still remember my first day. The servers were overheating. The Wi-Fi cut out every hour. Someone had spilled coffee on the only functioning printer. And yet, I saw potential. I saw a blank canvas. And I knew, if they gave me time, I could build something that would outlast all of us. And they did. Especially Richard, the former CEO. He was old school, but smart. He didn't understand tech like I did, but he trusted me. When I pitched the idea of automating the internal systems, he didn't shoot it down. He leaned in, asked questions. I told him, give me 2 years and a team of 5, and I'll make this company operate smoother than any competitor in the region. He gave me 3 years and a team of 2, and I still made it happen. We built the Orion framework, a full-stack automation suite customized to RFX's workflow. It handled everything from warehouse logistics to real-time client updates, even monitored employee productivity. It wasn't flashy, but it was bulletproof. No bugs in production, 0 downtime in 6 straight quarters. Our bottom line soared. We reduced manual input by 80%, cut HR errors by 90%, and saved the company millions. We were finally operating like a real tech company, not just another outdated supplier. And I wasn't doing it for applause. I was doing it for the people. For Sarah in HR who cried when we removed the monthly data entry workload. For Malcolm in shipping who got to go home 2 hours earlier because his inventory scanner finally worked. Those people mattered to me. This wasn't just code. It was people's time, their sanity, their lives. Outside of work, things were simple. I had a small house on the east side. No wife, no kids. Just me and my dog, Max. I liked it that way. Peaceful. Predictable. After spending 10 hours debugging warehouse sync issues, all I wanted was a cold beer and some Miles Davis on vinyl. I'd wake up every day looking forward to work. Not because it was easy, but because it was mine. But looking back, there were signs. A few years before Jeffrey came in, I noticed the board had started talking differently. More emphasis on scaling, agile capital, and strategic exits. I ignored it. I thought I was safe, indispensable even. After all, I built the brain of the company. But safety in a corporation is a dangerous illusion. No matter how much you give, they'll trade you the second a spreadsheet tells them you're too expensive. It was a Wednesday when Richard called me into his office and told me he was stepping down. He looked tired. Said he wanted to spend more time with his grandkids. I smiled, congratulated him, shook his hand. But as I turned to leave, he stopped me. "Be careful, David," he said. "This new guy they're bringing in, he's not like me." I didn't think much of it. I should have. When Jeffrey arrived, he brought with him a fresh-paying job, 2 consultants with fake smiles, and a pitch deck about disruption that used the word synergy 12 times in 3 slides. He toured the floors with his sleeves rolled up and used phrases like driving value through lean ops. Everyone was dazzled. Everyone except me. Because I saw the way he looked at the server room, like it was an eyesore. Like the brain of the company was just overhead waiting to be cut. Still, I stayed professional. I gave him the automation reports, efficiency charts, success metrics. He nodded, smiled. "Impressive work," he said once. That was it. Then, I was slowly removed from leadership meetings. Project assignments were rerouted to junior developers. He introduced a new cloud optimization lead, a guy who asked me if Python was that app where people upload pictures. I kept quiet. I stayed respectful. But I was watching. And the moment I saw him discussing server decommissioning timelines with someone who couldn't even spell Kubernetes, I knew the countdown had begun. But I didn't panic. Because while they were drawing up their charts and calculating my replacement value, they forgot one simple thing. I wasn't just an employee. I was the one who built the system they now depended on, and I never gave up the real keys. It didn't happen all at once. That's the thing about corporate betrayal. It's never a clean slice. It's a slow surgical bleed. At first, it was subtle. I noticed my calendar was no longer syncing with certain meetings. Engineering reviews, system check-ins, budget calls, things I'd been part of for years. When I asked my assistant, she said, "They told me you weren't needed in those anymore." Then came the software requests. Requests for admin access, encryption logs, server hierarchies. Things that had always been under my control. I knew what they were doing, trying to reverse engineer my system without admitting it. Jeffrey had probably asked his new tech guy to break it all down and rebuild it in the cloud to save money. But what they didn't know was that Orion wasn't just a tool. It was an ecosystem, a living, breathing web of dependencies and rules built over years. You couldn't just migrate it overnight without destroying its logic. And more importantly, I'd already built in safeguards, intelligent ones. The kind that noticed tampering. The kind that watched silently. So I let them try. I remember one Friday evening, I stayed late to finish a data map export. The office was mostly empty, just the hum of the server racks and my own breathing. Then I noticed something strange. Someone was remotely accessing a dev instance, one that was supposed to be archived. I traced the IP. It was routed through a masked internal node, meaning someone on the executive floor was testing back-end credentials without telling IT. Without telling me. That night, I didn't sleep. Instead, I logged in through a secured port from home and began digging deeper. What I found made my blood run cold. They weren't just trying to replace me. They were rewriting documentation, stripping my name from the code base, and preparing a full system reboot without any of the built-in ethical protocols. The logging system I'd written to monitor data integrity, disabled. The fraud detection AI I'd spent 6 months training, flagged as not essential. In short, they were turning the company into a black box. No accountability. No transparency. Just profit. And that's when the final blow came. I walked into work on Monday morning and saw 2 strangers sitting at my desk. One of them looked up, confused. "Are you facilities?" "Facilities?" I didn't say a word. I turned around and walked straight to Jeffrey's office. He didn't even look surprised when I entered. "David," he said, standing, fake warmth on his face. "I was just about to call you. We've decided to restructure the tech department. You'll still be compensated through your original contract, of course." I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I just asked one question. "Did you even bother to understand what you're trying to replace?" He smirked. "We'll be fine." And with that, I was done. Done working there. But not done entirely. Because what Jeffrey didn't know is that I had built Orion with a hidden layer, an adaptive watchdog script. It didn't interfere with normal operations. It didn't spy on employees. It simply watched for inconsistencies. It flagged unauthorized data access, strange login patterns, irregular usage spikes. It learned from patterns and reported quietly, only to me. And now, it was telling me something was very wrong. I spent the next 2 weeks in silence. No angry LinkedIn posts. No phone calls to HR. I let them move on like I didn't exist. But every day, my phone lit up with secure logs. Missing payroll data. Unauthorized script injections. Phantom entries in the procurement system. They were poking the beast. And it was only a matter of time before it bit back. So I started preparing. Not for war. For justice. Because when you fire the man who built the foundation, you better pray he doesn't still have the blueprint. It happened on a Thursday night. I had just finished walking Max when I got a secure alert on my laptop. One of Orion's system triggers had been tripped. Not just any trigger. The failsafe sequence. That trigger only activated when someone attempted to overwrite root permissions in the payroll module, the most sensitive part of our internal framework. It wasn't designed to block the action, just to log it in microscopic detail and alert me instantly. I sat down, heart pounding, and opened the encrypted dashboard. And there it was, time-stamped, IP verified, clear as day. A login from Jeffrey's office. followed by a command string from a junior analyst's credentials, followed by a manual override attempt of executive payroll protections, the ones that prevented bonuses from being issued without board review. In other words, they were trying to funnel themselves money, quietly, off the books. But here's where it got even more interesting. The command string had an error, a stupid one. Someone had copy-pasted an old Python snippet from our dev archive. Except it still had my initials in the comment line. #deal fallback from Q2 patch. That one little oversight, it told me everything I needed to know. They were using my old test code. They didn't even understand what they were doing. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just corporate politics. It was fraud. They weren't just cutting corners. They were robbing the company. And they were doing it using the very system I had built to prevent this. I didn't get angry. I didn't pace. I didn't scream. I opened a new folder on my desktop. Operation Fallback. I started pulling every log file, every packet trace, every shadow command routed through my system over the past 60 days. By 2 a.m., I had a complete timeline. Who logged in, what they changed, which modules they accessed, how much money was involved, and who was approving it behind the scenes. It was more than enough. But I wasn't done yet. I encrypted the files and uploaded them to a secure cloud drive, one with military-grade redundancy. I set a timer on it, a timed release, just in case something happened to me. The files would go public, and the board, shareholders, and authorities would all receive copies. For the first time since I was fired, I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Control. They thought they'd strip me of it, that I'd just walk away quietly like a good little engineer. But they'd forgotten something critical. When you write the system, you are the system. And so I waited. Not for permission. Not for approval. Just for the right moment to strike. Because this wasn't about getting my job back. This was about pulling the mask off and making sure everyone saw what was hiding underneath. Revenge isn't loud. Not if you want it to work. It's not about rage. It's about precision. And I had everything I needed to be surgical. For the next 3 weeks, I played a ghost. I didn't contact anyone from the company. Didn't show up. Didn't complain. Didn't even post a passive-aggressive quote on LinkedIn. But behind the scenes, I was building the case, not just for revenge, but for accountability. First, I started reaching out to former colleagues, people I trusted, people who'd either been pushed out like me, or were still on the inside but quietly watching the ship sink. One of them, a backend developer named Kelsey, sent me something that sealed it. A screenshot of a Slack thread where Jeffries, cloud lead, openly bragged about rebuilding everything Data did but better. In the same thread, he asked how to disable a data redundancy protocol, the one I designed to catch exactly what they were trying to do. These guys were arrogant and stupid. Kelsey agreed to help me quietly. She started forwarding me internal memos, change logs, and test results, all showing the company's infrastructure was falling apart since my removal. Meanwhile, I put together a detailed report, one that covered every unauthorized access attempt, every fraudulent payroll command, every system manipulation tied directly to executive activity, and the financial consequences if Orion was shut down without proper migration. It was 87 pages long, coded, annotated, bulletproof. Next, I contacted a lawyer, not just any lawyer, but someone who specialized in tech IP, whistleblower protections, and corporate fraud. He took one look at the documentation and said, "This is devastating. He helped me file a formal whistleblower complaint with the SEC, anonymously for now, and drafted letters to the company's board of directors, flagged violations of fiduciary responsibility, and prepped everything in case it needed to go public. And then I began the countdown. 3 days before the quarterly board meeting, I set up a trigger email. It would send a link to my encrypted report, with read receipts, to every board member, the CFO, and the external auditors if I didn't cancel it in time. But I wasn't done yet. I reached out to 2 major clients I had long-term rapport with, ones I'd personally onboarded years ago, and hinted, carefully, without naming names, that the integrity of RFX's data system was being compromised. Just enough for them to raise questions internally. And like clockwork, the dominoes started to fall. One of the clients paused a major shipment. Another requested a full audit trail before issuing payment. Internally, panic began spreading. I could tell from Kelsey's messages. Then came the icing on the cake. I uploaded Orion's last verified stability snapshot, a clean version with clear metrics showing how the system ran flawlessly just before my termination, to a secure server. I included a digital signature proving it was my original code. In short, I created a before and after exhibit. Here's what the system looked like under me. Here's what it's devolved into under Jeffrey. The day before the board meeting, I received a message. Not from Jeffrey. From Richard, the old CO. Just 7 words. I heard what you're doing. Good. They tried to erase me. But I didn't fight back with fists. I fought back with facts. With silence. With truth. Because the strongest system I ever built wasn't just Orion. It was the part of me they couldn't see. The part that doesn't panic, doesn't lash out. The part that waits and strikes when it matters most. The board meeting was scheduled for 9 a.m. on a Wednesday. At 8:47 a.m., my email system confirmed. White heavy checkmark all 7 board members. White heavy checkmark the CFO. White heavy checkmark the lead external auditor. Had opened the report. No one replied. At 9:06 a.m., Orion's security alert went off again, not because someone breached the system, but because someone shut down a key module manually. That meant only one thing. They were panicking. Inside that boardroom, I imagined the chaos unfolding. PowerPoints halfway through, Jeffrey still smug, until a board member slid the printed report across the table. 87 pages. Logs. Screenshots. Slack transcripts. Command trails. Timestamped system collapses. And evidence that Jeffrey and his team had diverted nearly $1.2 million in unauthorized executive bonuses. And just like that, it was out of my hands. I don't know exactly what was said, but I know this. By 10:34 a.m., Jeffrey's name had been removed from the company's website. By 11:15 a.m., Kelsey messaged me a picture of security escorting him out, the same hallway they'd walked me through, not 3 months earlier. Poetic, isn't it? But I wasn't celebrating yet. Not until the truth was complete. That afternoon, I received a call, unknown number. Mr. Linwood? The voice asked. Yes. This is Jessica Crane from the Office of Corporate Accountability. I've reviewed the material you submitted. Let's schedule a formal testimony. Your protection under federal whistleblower status will be guaranteed. I leaned back in my chair and exhaled, not out of relief, but resolution. It was done. They fired me thinking they were cutting weight. But they didn't realize I was the framework. And you can't gut the core and expect the system to stand. Over the next few days, the fallout was everywhere. The company issued a vague, executive transition, announcement. Stock dipped. Vendors started demanding independent audits. Clients delayed contracts. The press got wind of it. Not everything, but just enough to make it sting. And me? I said nothing publicly. I didn't post. Didn't gloat. Didn't claim victory. I let the silence speak for me. Because real power doesn't have to announce itself. It just arrives and makes everyone else look around and say, "Wait, what just happened?" Climactic satisfaction beat, poetic, quiet vengeance. The same system they tried to take from me was the same system that exposed them. They thought technology was a tool. But it was never about the tools. It was about the principles behind them. Integrity. Accountability. Truth that doesn't blink. In the end, they didn't lose because I struck back. They lost because they never understood what they were messing with. The board meeting was scheduled for 9 a.m. on a Wednesday. At 8:47 a.m., my email system confirmed. White heavy checkmark all 7 board members. White heavy checkmark the CFO. White heavy checkmark the lead external auditor. Had opened the report. No one replied. At 9:06 a.m., Orion's security alert went off again, not because someone breached the system, but because someone shut down a key module manually. That meant only one thing. They were panicking. Inside that boardroom, I imagined the chaos unfolding. PowerPoints halfway through, Jeffrey still smug, until a board member slid the printed report across the table. 87 pages. Logs. Screenshots. Slack transcripts. Command trails. Timestamped system collapses. And evidence that Jeffrey and his team had diverted nearly $1.2 million in unauthorized executive bonuses. And just like that, it was out of my hands. I don't know exactly what was said, but I know this. By 10:34 a.m., Jeffrey's name had been removed from the company's website. By 11:15 a.m., Kelsey messaged me a picture of security escorting him out, the same hallway they'd walked me through, not 3 months earlier. Poetic, isn't it? But I wasn't celebrating yet. Not until the truth was complete. That afternoon, I received a call, unknown number. "Mr. Linwood?" the voice asked. "Yes. This is Jessica Crane from the Office of Corporate Accountability. I've reviewed the material you submitted. Let's schedule a formal testimony. Your protection under federal whistleblower status will be guaranteed." I leaned back in my chair and exhaled, not out of relief, but resolution. It was done. They fired me thinking they were cutting weight. But they didn't realize I was the framework. And you can't gut the core and expect the system to stand. Over the next few days, the fallout was everywhere. The company issued a vague, executive transition announcement. Stock dipped. Vendors started demanding independent audits. Clients delayed contracts. The press got wind of it. Not everything, but just enough to make it sting. And me? I said nothing publicly. I didn't post. Didn't gloat. Didn't claim victory. I let the silence speak for me. Because real power doesn't have to announce itself. It just arrives and makes everyone else look around and say, "Wait, what just happened?" Climactic satisfaction beat, poetic, quiet vengeance. The same system they tried to take from me was the same system that exposed them. They thought technology was a tool. But it was never about the tools. It was about the principles behind them. Integrity. Accountability. Truth that doesn't blink. In the end, they didn't lose because I struck back. They lost because they never understood what they were messing with. It's been 6 months since that boardroom meeting. 6 months since Jeffrey walked out the doors I once walked through in silence. The company still stands, barely. They hired a new CEO, one with a background in actual engineering. Orion is still in place, though I hear they've stopped calling it that. That's fine by me. I didn't build it for glory. I built it to last. After everything, I had options. A few companies reached out quietly, offering CTO positions. One VC firm even asked if I'd rebuild Orion under a new brand. But I said no. Not yet. Because what I needed first wasn't another job. I needed to reclaim myself. For 15 years, I gave everything I had to a system that almost forgot I was human. It took being thrown out, humiliated, and nearly erased for me to realize I wasn't just a cog in a machine. I was the machine. And now, I built something new, not with code this time, but with boundaries, perspective, and a little bit of peace. I started my own small consulting firm. No giant team. No investors. Just a handful of clients who value transparency, ethics, and clean, efficient systems. We don't chase unicorns. We build resilience. And every time I sit down to write a new script, I remember the lesson that changed everything. Emotional reflection, soft, personal wisdom. You can give your heart to a company, your time, your energy, your loyalty. But the moment you become invisible, you realize something no paycheck can fix. You are not your job. You are the impact of your work and the values behind it. They took my title. They took my salary. They tried to take credit for the system I created. But they couldn't take what mattered most, my soul. And from that, I rebuilt something stronger. Not for them. Not even for revenge. But for me. Soft CTA for audience connection, without breaking tone. If you've ever been blindsided, used, discarded like you didn't matter, I hope this story reminds you. Sometimes the best revenge is becoming someone they never deserved in the first place. Stay strong. Stay smart. And never forget where the real power lies.